Welcome to the Left of Monkey Music Show. We are already started, and it's Alex. He's
You
back.
should have like a theme song or something that's basically like chimp noises, like an anime.
Joe Rogan has that already. Joe Rogan has that in his.
Yeah. Well, we weren't successful. We were influential. We were as influential as we were commercially
Look back. What do you think
viable.
What do you really think is successful? Just when I was just talking to Jeff, he's like, "That's a great album. Everybody knows that album." It depends on what you consider success.
Okay, that's a totally valid point. I see what you're saying.
You respect amongst your peers. I hear a lot about you from the peers that talk about you, like great stuff.
Just between me and you, obviously, because nobody listens to your show.
Come on, my grandma does.
I know. I'm sorry. It was lame.
Oh, that's actually no. That's good. That's good.
I had to take the cheap shot.
That's actually pretty funny. That's the first person to do that in a show. Congratulations. There'll be over 200 shows to get you finally do it.
Oh my God. Really? You've done 200 shows? No shit.
This is episode. Oh yeah. I've got a couple more already, and I've probably closer to 205 or 206 already. Yeah.
Wow, man. Good for you, dude. That's fantastic. That's really admirable.
It's a passion. It's a passion thing. I find all the artists totally. And music people that I enjoy personally and want to fly their flag. Literally, that's my motivation.
Well, it's here I go being serious again. In the contemporary marketplace, if you will, since people like me, generally speaking, major labels don't want to have anything to do with anybody that has like a track record or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I think once you get past a certain point in your life, they're like, well, we can't exploit and make money off of this guy and throw him away.
Well, if you think for yourself too, you're dangerous.
The way
you think for yourself. You get a young band and you can kind of manipulate.
Nobody likes that. Nobody likes that. And one of my better friends in the rock and roll community is Ace Von Johnson. Who has he been on the show yet?
No.
I haven't. Get Ace on, man. He's badass, and he is so. I mean, he's playing with Tracy Guns, who's one of the most influential and best guitar players of my rock and roll generation. So in that paradigm, he doesn't get the respect, and he gets the respect, but I mean, he takes a back seat as far as being a lead guitar player.
I don't think I've had any actually from the LA Guns. Oh, I did a phone when I first started. I can't do phone interviews because I just have to see people. But I did a failed phone interview with Kelly Nichols when I first started, and I posed it with Kelly Nichols. LA Guns guy, but it never went up. It was just that was it. So it never went up. But Scotty Coogan, he was at LA Guns for a hot second when I interviewed him, and then he's not anymore though. So really, I have to know from LA Guns up.
Well, I mean, I definitely recommend Ace, and I know that you had Sam Bam on. It's so annoying because Sam Bam, Ace, and Tony Higbee from Kiefer's band. There's this like little cabal of us guitar players that kind of Jeremy from Ace Frehley's band's part of it. Tim from Junkyard's part of it, and who am I missing? And then Tony Higbee. Oh, and Tori also from Enough, right? So we kind of, we sort of have our own little world that we inhabit, and and relate to each other. Sorry, I'm check on my dog, my 15-year-old dog. I don't know if you can see.
I do. I can see a little bit.
Can you see his? Yeah, that's his tail right there.
Yeah,
he's all messed up. He can't. He's got bad hips, so I'm probably going to have to help him. Wait, I'm going to have to help my dog sit down now because that's the only way you can do it.
My dog's getting at the point too. He can't go up the stairs, so I feel for you. Go for it.
Yeah, dude. I told him. This is what I do about 500 times a day, and he just waits. I mean, I'll even move the chair so everybody can see what my daily existence is like. Okay, here's Bear. Say hi to everybody. Say hi, Bear. Say,
he's like, I just want to sit down. I want to set my old hips down.
Here he is. And then so what I do, because his hips are bad, and he looks at, like, I don't know if you see this, but he already knows the drill. And so I help him sit down. Duck. But I love him to death, and even though he's very challenging and he's the pig. I don't know if like if you've ever had a senior dog, which obviously you
I
do, but if any of your listeners do, I mean, they get to a point where it's like, you last night this was your favorite food on earth, and now you're literally turning your nose up at it. And I'm just pulling out big clumps of hair going, how the but we reach our own little happiness thing. And then when he's useless for anything except cuddles, cleaning up after, and spoiling. Aside from that, he's pointless. But
he sounds like a teenager. Maybe you should give him an iPhone.
well, he's 15. Yeah, no, I'm not.
See, he needs an iPhone.
Dude, if I gave him a phone, man, the
That'd be
cops
it.
would be in my door, like Walmart. It would just be like, I didn't order 500 pounds of dog chews. How the heck?
All those toys.
Yeah, toys.
Duck toys.
And that's what I do too. I'll just like, he's not like, he can't, because his hips are bad. Like he can't do the tug of war thing. So what I'll do though is like, he's, so he spends a lot of time laying down, and really all I'm looking for him is contentment. Mm-hmm. If I can deliver contentment, I feel as though I've been a good dad. But I don't know, I just love the shit out of him. And so between and because of him and because of Mom, like that's why I can only do short tours right now. Because I'm caring for both of them, so I can't be gone for 6 months like I could in 2019. So it's all on me. So I'm very selective about the stuff that I do. Is it going to be fun? Is it going to be challenging? Is it going to be not a month away? You know what I mean? And that's kind of just
short gigs that pay well. Getting some short gigs that pay well also helps you take care of your mom. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, exactly. And also, I mean, being totally honest, because Mom's got Alzheimer's, so that's like a whole world of challenges. I mean, seriously, the amount, like, I still play every day and I write every day, and I'm doing a lot of writing with different guys. It's probably better not to say who, but they're pretty formidable guys that have been around. And since the Shark Island album, actually, like since the last time we talked, I've got 3 top 40 Billboard songs.
I know. I was lucky you could fit me in your Rolodex there.
I'm going to be 57 on Sunday. What? Right. And
early happy birthday to you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Which is, I mean, that's another thing, not to like, but when I first came out here Mom's husband passed away due to cancer at the end of 2019. I was still playing with Chip, and then, and like touring all the time, being gone forever. And then, so the husband passed away. That ruined Mom's perspective on everything. And obviously it didn't help the Alzheimer's. So she kind of, she's still lucid. She recognizes me, but just today, she called me, I think it was 5 times, to tell me that I can't bring the dog by, Lucky Bear. I can't bring him by tomorrow because she's going to get her hair done because it's a mess. And I'm like, I one of my credos is patience is for those who live forever. And I don't know anyone like that. So I have never employed any degree of patience. And man, in rock and roll, like there's not a lot of room for patience. Like nobody's going to sit there and be like, oh, that's okay if you keep fucking the song up, buddy. No problem.
Did you try your best? Tried your best.
All I ask is that you tried your best. It doesn't matter. That actually reminds me of a funny story.
I think that's going on in the Bon Jovi camper now too. When you went out there and you sang tonight, did you do your best?
Dude, I can't comment on that. And the story that I was literally about to start telling you is directly related to Bon Jovi. I'm good friends with Phil X, who actually, by the way, in my mind, is currently the greatest rock and roll guitar player alive. I mean, he's like, aside from us being goofy nerds and all that shit, when it comes to guitar, I just watch that dude play and I'm like, how do you hear these notes? And like everything that he does, even if it's not like technically challenging, musically and intellectually inspired. You know what I mean? So it's not just like garbage bullshit just to get to the fucking next chorus or whatever. I just can't say enough about his play, let alone the fact that when he covers AC/DC, he replaces both Bon Scott and Angus Young. And when he covers Led Zeppelin, he replaces Jimmy Page and Robert Plant, and does a better job, frankly, than both of them, you know. But his wife was pregnant with their first child when he first got the Bon Jovi gig. And I remember, I think he called me on like a Tuesday or whatever it was. And me and her go way back. We've been buddies for like 30 years, maybe a while, a long time. Hey, you know, I'm going out of town. I got a gig, and oh yeah, who'd you get? A Bon Jovi. And I'm like, oh wow, dude, that's amazing. What happened with Richie? And I don't remember what the thing was. You know, can you keep an eye on Lindy? And I'm like, dude, for sure. And you know, that's how everybody looks out for everybody. It's a family for sure. And as it was going, I'm like, everything's cool here, man, blah, 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 blah. I go, dude, what is it like? Because he was literally flying out that day to go practice at sound check to do a show in front of 20,000 people, right? But that's the level of musicianship he is, you know what I mean? But I got a hold of him. This is when you said, nice try. And I go, dude, what's it like? What's it like? And he goes, well, it depends on how you feel about clamming Bon Jovi hits in front of 20,000 of his fans.
John's probably more okay with it than the fans are.
No, I don't think so, actually. I think John is actually a bit of, from what I understand, that he's a perfectionist. While I don't know the ins and outs of whatever we all kind of have noticed about his singing or how they're dealing with it or any of that, what I do know is when I had Anti-Product, which is my band right after Life, Sex, and Death, reach out to me for T-shirts, by the way. All I can, I mean, I see and I hear the struggle, and you know, I'm sure that like everybody Phil knows is blowing up his phone going, hey, what the fuck? So I didn't even broach the subject. I'm like, dude, he's sick of, he's copy pasting answers by now, you know? I didn't ask any of that. So I'm ignorant as to anything that's going on in that camp regarding the struggles.
It's a good friend thing to do. You don't want to, you know, do that.
You know what I mean? It ain't none of my business. If he needed me to tell me something, he would have. I don't need to fucking, you know. But here is the thing. I definitely know that Bon Jovi's a perfectionist, and I knew that like long before.
I've heard that too. That's why I have a theory too. So share yours first.
Well, I mean, the theories are, I mean, my theory is that, I mean, I really have no idea. So, I mean, I don't think it's a stroke, but that seems like what would happen. I think he's got like a hearing issue. But I think that. But I also think what's happened is, you know, to go out there, particularly at that level, and then particularly to be John Bon Jovi in front of all those people, and you know, now you're 60 and whatever, and you know, you can't sing Runaway anymore. I mean, those notes are fucking.
Or Living on a Prayer, and that's okay. Those are ridiculous notes to have written. That's a, you know.
It definitely wasn't like, oh, I'm going to be doing this in 30 years when those were recorded. But that's what this part of the show is for. Whoa, right?
Exactly.
And he even did that when the album was out. I remember.
Oh yeah, it's a hard.
That bit.
His voice was toasted the first tour from doing that. He was all raspy. At the end of Slippery, he was totally raspy. He couldn't sing at the end of that tour.
But I remember when Phil first got the gig, we all went down and seen him and stuff. When I was still living in LA, and I think Phil and Lindy were in LA too, and I guess because I think we were at the Forum. But anyway, so and they came out, and it was a great show. And this wasn't that long ago. I mean, relative to history of Earth, but and
Wait,
the
what are you using for a
last
timeline? The birth of Jesus Christ? I mean, what kind of relatively
no, I'm going
timeline?
back to dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs,
Yeah,
Jesus,
yeah,
Bon
Jesus,
Jovi Runaway album, and we just kind of going that way.
and then now.
Okay. Just gonna write that one down.
But they and they did, I don't remember what tune it was, but it was a ballad, and it was the encore. And he was kind of breaking up, and there were definitely notes that at that point in the set were
always, like, maybe always.
Maybe
that was when it goes up there pretty high.
It was a ballad for sure. But I'll tell you what, man, even though some of those notes at the end of a 2-hour set eluded his ability to perform them, it didn't stop him from giving 125,000%, man. He went out there and he gave it everything he could to get to those notes. So taking that frame of mind into account, how much must it suck to just know, I'm going to go out there, I'm not going to be the guy that I need to be, and I don't know if, they sheltered him from reviews or comments on the internet or whatever. I don't know any.
I think, first off, Bon Jovi is a machine. It's always been a machine. Yeah. He's a sharp businessman. You can say what you want about him, but he knows his business. He's kept everything in line. Even the dirt from Bon Jovi, like Alec leaving, who just passed away, you don't know what really happened. I don't even think Richie Sambora and John really know what happened to that relationship. There's no dirt. You know what I mean? They really kept going. And so much money is made to that band, first off, and those dates are set in. He's a businessman. Not only would he could survive, he's not going to end up so poor, but But there are a lot of people that work for him that haven't done any work in a couple of years. And now to go off the tour, I think that's in the back of his mind. And
I totally think so.
And to know how good you are. And his voice went from being weaker, I think, when he first started, to the mid years, he got really strong. His voice got better from when he started.
I agree.
I think so. And to be the consummate performer, he wants everybody to have fun, to the point where it's not fun for anybody else, because he's so, hard into it. Now, what happened to his voice? The fact he's still performing, and he must know what his voice is like, but he smiles and he keeps putting the best show on
that he can.
Bravo for that. But then you step back. So the concern is, get the business model, people losing money. He's still doing the best he can. He's probably eating crow because he knows how he's not being the best he can. And that's probably bothers him more than anybody.
Oh,
something must have happened to his voice where he has like some damage to his throat, hearing. Something else is going on in there to just go out of there. Because you get a couple performances like a year or two before that I've seen on YouTube. People have been comparing it, and it wasn't like that. This is something different.
Well, one thing that I don't know if it has any effect, but or not, but one thing I didn't realize is that he'd had COVID.
There you go.
So I don't know if that shit got in his pipes or whatever, and because there's so many different variables in which version you get and what it does. So I don't know, but I feel for the dude. I mean, it's easy to kind of mock and ridicule, but I also think having been there, when I was front and anti-product, if you can't deliver what you got to deliver, I
feel bad for anybody that performs and they can't do it, even if I don't like their music.
You know what I mean? No, I totally, just when you sense that struggle, and I do have to
watching it.
The what?
I feel horrible watching those videos of him. I'm always hoping he's going to get up there like he's getting better. I'm kind of rooting for him.
Yeah. Well, I saw what was the one? I think I saw "I'll Be There for You," which was
that's one of the highest scream. Yeah.
And he his course of action was to not really whisper, but he was singing he wasn't pushing it, which makes me feel that he was very concerned about if I push too hard, I will have nothing left. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I totally think you're right. It's okay, they got the machine ready and they paid for all the plane tickets and everybody's rehearsing and they put the deposits on whatever the fuck and blah, 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 blah. And
I don't even think it's just that, but I also think it's just the inherent thing of people losing their jobs, not being able to take care of their families. Because he was like a shelter for food. I think if he could get away with just hurting his pocketbook and just not do it, that'd be fine. But I actually think, and this is my own theory, that part of what's driving him is the families that are getting work from him
Yeah.
He can't. He doesn't want to let them down.
I totally
And
would
that is
imagine.
totally admirable. I know. I hope he gets it straight because he's a hard worker. I mean, not listen to all his music nowadays because it's like country music now almost. But you know,
Well, you don't got to. Well, that's like Paul Stanley doing soul. You know what I mean? Because it's not like him singing all that super high shit.
right.
You know, and I don't know. I'm not like a lead singer like I'm more a lead singer like Joey Ramone or Iggy Pop. You know, I got like a
Right.
lower voice, so I've never. You know, I know where
I give him
my
credit. I give anybody that wants to do music credit. I'm just saying that's where I wouldn't know nothing about it because I just that's boring to me for some reason. I can listen to anything about country music. I don't know what it is. Not talking outlaw country music. I'm not talking Willie Nelson. I'm talking like the new stuff.
Yeah, which is like it's
Bedazzled.
somewhere. It's somewhere in between. Like, yeah, it's somewhere.
You can't
in
have a
between,
cowboy
like,
hat that's got bedazzles on it. No.
no, and I don't. I mean, I do anything you fucking want. I am not one to say anything about anything. Do your thing, just don't hurt anybody. But for me, it seems cloying and manipulative when they start hybridizing genres and calling it country music. Um, okay, there's nothing wrong with hip hop beats and a country tune. And like I was writing country for a while, and that was my go-to. I'm like, country music with hip hop beats. It'll be interesting. So I mean, I guess I'm undermining my own point. But it seems more like the country music that you're talking about is kind of more so motivated by commercial success.
By the 90s, by heavy metal. I feel like heavy metal got crushed. No, it just went to country music. Those big choruses and stuff. Oh God, yeah.
Well, I mean, it literally, I mean, that's Mutt Lange's influence on country music. So he took, because seriously, man, you listen.
No, Shania. It looks like Def Leppard, sounded like Def Leppard at one point. It's starting to get too much crossbreeding.
Well, everything, that was literally exactly what I was going to say. It's like his template for the arrangements and the background vocals and stuff like that is identical. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, it worked for AC/DC, and then it worked for Def Leppard, and then it worked for Shania Twain, and then it worked for Nickelback. I think he did their best album. I'm not being a huge Nickelback fan, but
I'm not really a fan of them, but I won't make fun of them either. I won't be that guy either.
What?
I said I'm not a big fan of them either, but I won't make fun of them because I think the guys are really cool in the band. I'm just not a fan of their music. It seems like Chad's a cool guy.
Exactly.
Like, I just don't like the music. I could probably hang out with him for dinner and have a beer. I just don't listen to his music.
Don't sing.
Just don't play your music.
But you know, and he found his niche and he found his demographic, and he's just kind of hitting that.
Bless him. I give him credit.
And bless him. Yeah, exactly. Fucking go sell 1 million records, bro. That's fantastic.
Awesome.
You know. Well, because it's not like not everybody wants challenging music. You know what I mean? Like, I love movies, and I love David Cronenberg movies, for example, but it's not for everybody. You know what I mean? Some people like whatever the fuck.
I like so many types of music because I do so many things. I can listen to certain music at certain activities. You know what I mean? Some stuff that's too detailed, I can't listen to it. I'm doing other thinking work. I need to listen to something fluffy. Or classical music or something, because to me, you know, it depends on that too, because that gets pretty heavy. You know, just thinking about the music, it's hard to not listen to it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll do that. Like, if I think like, oh, okay, I'm gonna have music on in the background and stuff, and I'm like, oh, that was interesting. You know, and I gotta, how did they do that? And then I gotta figure out how they did it, you know. But sorry, I gotta pick up a guitar.
I thought you were gonna get that duck again. I thought it's like you're a Carrot Top or something. You're gonna be doing props tonight.
The what?
The mallard duck. Like, you got props.
Well, what I do have I'm starting a tribute band to Gallagher, the comedian. So behind this chair, I've actually got a watermelon that I'm going to smash for you guys in slow motion.
That'd be awesome. You're gonna steal his brother's job, the copycat Gallagher.
Oh, is that what's going on?
No, that's a long time ago. I don't know if anyone's alive. Remember, Gallagher has a brother, looks just like him, and he would do the same shtick. Yeah, they were having problems because he's ripping off his brother. They look the same. Google it. Anybody doesn't know, useless information up here.
Interesting, because I remember, I think,
and they look a lot alike too. So sometimes you can't tell because if you're not really paying attention, because he has like a round face and that weird mustachy thing. They all look the
Yeah,
same at that
right.
point. You know what I mean? So once I see a mustache, I kind of blank out. You know what I mean? I just kind of
That's
black out.
like I seriously want to have a talk with Phil Lewis where it's like, bro, mustache, dude. It's not. It's not what I expect to see. It's like I don't want to see Angus Young with a mustache either, you know?
Yeah, something about mustaches are very unrock and roll.
That I mean, on the right person, I can certainly make an exception, you know.
Who could you see a mustache on in rock and roll?
Burt Reynolds. I mean, he's dead now.
He's not
so
rock and roll. I could say Freddie Mercury. I'll give you that one. That's it. We're talking about who can get away with having a mustache and still rock hard. This will be cool about it.
Nugent, even though I don't go with his
No.
politics, but I mean, he rocked the beard.
That's a beard. I'm talking about a mustache.
Oh, pure mustache.
Pure stash power. That can still be a cool
Pure, like
rocker.
no goatee, just the
No.
tash.
I mean, Phil Lewis counts because that is a weird version of a stash. That's not a goatee. That's clearly a pirate mustache or something. I don't know. Swashbuckling. Ooh. No, Phil Lewis. That's the swashbuckling mustache that he has, or he did. I haven't seen it in a while.
No, it's not.
That's the long one, right? That weird.
That's not swashbuckling. It's horrifying.
Like he's the king of France.
Well, little did you. I mean, surprisingly, he is the king of France.
Is. That would be
so that's
funny.
probably why.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Besides Tom Selleck and
yeah.
any other dude that does the Roadhouse movie with the long gray hair, those are the only two dudes I know they're gonna have mustaches. Okay, when they shave it off, it looks really weird. You know, remember you saw Roadhouse? Obviously, we all did. He had gray hair back then. He was Patrick Swayze's friend that came in. He pulls hair back in the thing. He's in all the military movies. What the hell is his name now? White hair.
I'll look it up, but
yeah, but those are the only two guys that get away with it.
I'm trying to think of like who has a mustache that you can't picture them not having a mustache.
I can't think of any. Didn't the guy from The Darkness have a mustache at one point? It was kind of weird though. I couldn't get over that.
Who?
The Darkness. Justin.
Oh,
did he have a mustache for a while? It's kind of weird.
Well, I think he still does. But I think, not to be too timely or whatever, but I think a lot of rock dudes began to emulate the Jack Sparrow look. You know, and I'm not even trying to, you know, go in that direction, but you know, because it was such like an archetype. And you know, and he pulled it off. I mean, he was doing Keith Richards, right? That's what he said anyway. So you saw this and then this, you know what I mean? So, but I think like this, the bottom, whatever that is to the top, that there, somehow that takes it out of like pure mustache territory. Cause like Steven Tyler, you know, looks cool in that Johnny Depp kind of way with the thing. And Justin did the same thing. It was all post Jack Sparrow.
Right.
And like when he brought the rock and roll aesthetic into, you know, mainstream movies and whatever, I just think like a bunch of dudes, particularly that aren't 23 anymore, they were like, yeah, I'm gonna get the thing and the thing. And then like everybody fucking had a mustache and the thing for a while. If
I grow a goatee, mine looks like that because I can't grow hair right here. It literally, it's how it grows out for me.
Right. I was touring many years ago, well, many about 5, but it, you know, it's a relatively long time ago, with this one band, and a few of the guys in the band were actually from Juliette Lewis's band, and so they were unbelievable.
The Licks, right?
Yeah, exactly. Jason Womack, who's a fucking genius, and Ed Davis, who's, I think he's with Taylor Swift now, but he was in this band too. Great player, and like from playing with Eddie, I know what it's like playing with Dave Grohl, because like Eddie had that Dave Grohl energy. Fucking love those guys. Anyway, so we were on this tour, and like every tour, I try to do something stupid as fuck. You know what I mean? Pointless and stupid, just so it keeps it light. You know what I mean? And whimsical, if you will. One tour that I did where the band that I was playing with was touring with LA Guns. And so my thing was, all right, I'm not going back to this France thing. And it wasn't Phil, it was Jizzy. Jizzy Pearl was singing. And so we were in Europe, and I made a big statement at one of the sound checks or whatever. I'm going to show the French what's up with smelling bad. I'm not showering until after the show in Paris, right?
Oh.
And that was 3 weeks away.
No way.
And dude, when I play, I don't know if you see me play or not, but you know, I jump around and I sweat, man. I can't help it. I have to. It's
You're like
what
a
I do.
sponge with a guitar, is what it is, basically.
What?
You're like a sponge with a guitar attached to you.
Yeah, well, more like like a, no, I'm gonna go with that. That's pretty good. But yeah, but I'm like, after shows, I'm damp, and I definitely smell like the inside of a dead animal. And so we were all traveling in one van to keep costs down and whatever. And I remember Eddie, who's the drummer still at that point. Eddie, I was sitting in the back, and he sticks his head through the curtain. He was up in the front of the cab of the thing, and he goes, "Hey, Alex, guess what?" And this was like maybe 2 weeks into my marathon, my lack of hygiene marathon.
That's so gross. I just want to throw up thinking about that. Oh.
Oh, it was awful. Oh, dude, nobody hated it more than me, but I said it, so I had to do it, you know. And so we've got, you know, there's maybe like 4 shows to go before the Paris show. But Eddie sticks his head back through the curtain, and he goes, "Hey, Alex, I can actually taste you right now." And that was so gross. Like, it almost compelled me to do the shower. But I stuck to my guns. And it got to the point, and like Tracy will tell you what's up. Like he's not gonna, like, you know, sugarcoat shit. That's not how he rolls. And they had their dressing room, and we had our dressing room. And you know, I went into their dressing room for something. I don't remember what it was. And Tracy was sitting at the back end of the room, right? And I walked in the door that was at the opposite end of the room. And as soon as I walked in, he goes, "Dude, get the fuck out. You smell." And I'm like, oh my God. And now it's like a countdown, 3 more shows, right? And so finally I was grossed out because I knew it was disgusting, but it was my thing.
Let me stop for a minute. I just one thought. Were you not itchy? Were you not like physically
I'm always itchy. I got skin problems, so I'm always itchy. You can ask anybody that, you see, this is all this. That's all fucking, I got skin problem. I'm always itching. When I was singing for Anti-Product, what I used to do on a nightly basis, sorry for the tangential thinking here, but on a nightly basis as the front man for Anti-Product, we had UV lights all over the stage. So I would spray paint my face and my whole body with UV spray paint, which is particularly carcinogenic, as it turns out. So when I get like super tired or stressed, or which is always, like I get super bad eczema. And so I gotta be, you know, I gotta watch what I do. And even just thinking about, you know, it's like I'm uncomfortable in my own skin. So I'm always itchy. That's a long-winded way of saying that. But I could not wait until that fucking show in Paris was over. I will admit that. And as soon as the show was over, literally, I packed my shit away and I went straight to the hotel. I got in the shower, and it wasn't like a super fast draining thing, you know, or maybe it was a tub, but I was in the shower aspect of the tub thing. Anyway, I looked down at the water, dude, it was dark gray. It was dark gray. But the thing is, like, the tour still had to go for 2 weeks or something like after that. Suddenly I had the emotional rebirth from washing all of that shit and gigs and memories and toxic swamp shit. I washed that off. Now suddenly I'm fresh as a daisy. I'm ready to fucking go. I'm reborn. But the rest of the dudes that had been showering, they were pretty fatigued. So I'd like tricked my mind into being like, we feel great now. So there was the advantage to that. But not only that, but when I came back from the hotel, now finally having showered after 3 weeks of touring and constant gigging, like I walked in, and Michael Bradford was the bass player in the band. And he was the first guy that encountered me after I had showered. And I'm standing in front of him and I've got this impish grin on my face, you know. And he looks at me and he's like, and then he comes in closer. Oh my God, you showered. And he throws his arms around me. And it was the only human contact, like the only physical human contact I'd literally had since I started my quest. And then, you know, everybody started, and this is the point of doing stupid bullshit. So everybody started going like, oh my, Alex took a shower. Guys, Alex took a shower. So everybody was running in, coming in, and they all come out. Dude, you haven't lived till Jizzy Pearl comes up to you and he's like, tentative. So everybody, it was like I should have charged. Everybody was hugging me and like, oh, it's so good that you're back.
I can't do that. I've done things where I'll be like, I'm not gonna. I won't wear shorts. I'm not wearing pants again for like it'll go like 8 months, or I wear shoes that zip up, or I answer. I went to a period where I was only answering questions with lines from Hall & Oates, literally on social media. Nobody ever got into it. Like I was going deep on that one too. Nobody got that. So I've had weird moments where I'm like, I'm totally committed to something.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and that's what you.
But the shower thing is, I draw the line. I'm like, no. I would have grabbed a blanket, thrown over you, and made the band. We would have thrown you in the shower. Couldn't have done it.
But I mean, part of the thing was antagonizing the French. It's American exceptionalism, okay?
I get that until I was in the van with you. If I had to be in the same van with somebody that stank.
I'm sure they were so patient and they must have been tortured. I became immune to a degree. And it was when Eddie poked his head through that curtain in the front and said, dude, I can actually taste you in my mouth right now. I'm like, oh God, I feel really bad, but I'm so close, you know? So I did get over the finish line, but then, you know, as being part of the, like, all right, I'm going to do some stupid shit so it stays light and crazy and, you know, not normal. I decided I was going to grow a mustache, not a beard, a mustache, not a Johnny Depp, but just a mustache.
Right.
And I'm pretty hairy actually. Like if I take my clothes off, basically I look like Alf from the front or the back.
The tail too.
Yes. What do you think of my tail, Bear? He doesn't care. He's sleeping. But so the challenge after that then that I gave myself was to grow this mustache. And Jason Womack, he was I think he was the bass player, but in Juliet's band, but he was me and him were the guitar players in this band and the one I'm talking about. And you know, he's a Southern boy and, you know, he likes his drink. And at one point, towards the end of the tour, and everybody was there, like us, and I forget who we were touring with, but everybody was there. It was like one of those communal dressing rooms before a gig or whatever. And Jason, you know, it's after the show and he's had a couple of drinks and whatever. And in front of everybody, like the band, the headline band, everybody was in the room. And he goes, Alex, and he points to my, at the time, mustache. And he goes, Alex, don't ever do that again. So I'm like, all right, well, I just got to do it till the end of the tour and I will shave it off. And I've never, like, I got PTSD from that particular exchange. So I've never even tried to grow a mustache afterwards. I don't think I'm meant to have one of those.
Even when you're shaving, I would never shave it and just leave the mustache. And like, if there's like no pictures of me, I just don't want to be seen. I don't want to have any visuals of myself with a mustache. It's just something about it.
Well, I've seen some pictures and you know what? He was fucking right. I'm never going to grow a mustache again. And the other thing is you get older and stuff, like you take certain things of the consistency of your physiology for granted. And then all of a sudden you're like, my beard is all gray. And I'm like, which is another good, bad thing about shaving. You don't really have a bead on, okay, what's going on with, you know, the aging process.
Yeah. What gets more confusing because as a rockers, you guys are always changing your hair colors as it is. So you're not really aware of when your hair starts to change also because you're putting reds and blues and greens. You love colors, so you wouldn't even have an idea. Because
Dude,
do you even know your original hair color at this point?
yes, because of the pandemic.
Okay,
Yes, I do. And it's fucking gray.
like mine.
And but I didn't know because, I'd always been like coloring my hair. I don't even know why I got any hair left, but I've been coloring my hair since like 1980, whatever the fuck, probably like 86 maybe. Um, uh, so continually through the entirety of playing and touring and from Life, Sex and Death onwards,
Yeah.
and so the pandemic, and I'm like, well, I'm not able to go anywhere when nobody's playing, so yeah, just fucking let's just let it go and give your hair a break. And delusion and denial are awesome coping mechanisms. So I let it grow out, and I'm like, oh, it doesn't actually look that bad. But then when that's me looking in the mirror or whatever, but then you see pictures when I started gigging again, and I'm like, holy fuck, I've got legit gray hair. And you know what I mean? It was, and that was actually this year when things started opening up again, and I was starting to like, I did.
Now, what was the battle? Did you have the personal battle of like, do you feel like if you want to have gray hair or you don't because you like it, whatever, it's a personal choice. There's no wrong answer. And also, do you feel like the audience has to, you have to feel like you're really presenting a full package to them?
I don't have the confidence to go on stage with gray hair. I don't feel like Alex Kane, my stage name. I don't feel like he's meant to have gray hair in public. It's my own insecurities. They don't.
I like what Mickey D did. Mickey D's hair is almost white, like white, blonde, and platinum. That's the way to go. I don't like having mixed color hairs. For me, like I'm okay with having like, if you look in regular lights, it's quite gray, like gray white in it. I just have it all white. I don't care. I hate mixed colors. I feel like it's not committed yet. You know what I mean? I'm an all or nothing guy.
Wishy-washy.
Yeah, I'm like salt and pepper here. I'm like a dun, dun, dun song. You know what I mean?
Well, I will say this about that. When when I finally had my hair done, which is Kazi Mayorga does it for me. She's just great. She's a genius at the hair cutting stuff. Like if I'd done anything.
What a great name.
Well, she's actually Roy Mayorga's wife.
Oh, okay.
From Stone Sour and Soulfly and Ministry, and just one of the greatest musicians on earth right now. That dude's so fucking good, man. I played with him a couple of times, and it's like, I get it, man. When you're on stage with that thunder, with that drive, with that snap, with that confidence and physicality that he plays with, it really, it's so inspiring, and you just know you're in good hands and feet. Like because the drummer, I mean, guitar players and singers get all the credit. If they'd had, I'm not going to name names, if Zeppelin had not John Bonham, they wouldn't have been Zeppelin. You know what I mean? I'm a firm believer that the band is the drummer, and everything else is the window dressing to bring people into the shop. You know what I mean? Yes, Eddie Van Halen is a genius. Yes, David Lee Roth is a genius. But I don't know. Take Alex out of there, and is it the same?
Alex is a monster, and I'm going to say David Lee Roth is not a genius. He's your crazy old grandfather at this point. Are you kidding right now? He's going Ted Nugent world. He needs to be quiet. He's going crazy. He's not saying stuff like Nugent, but he's bat crazy, just like Nugent is.
Like, what is he? How is that?
He was, last thing I heard him quote was he came up with the name of Van Halen. He did this. All the songs were his. He's just like claiming crazy. He's like someone's crazy grandfather. He is legit out there talking. He used to be kind of bravado. It was entertaining. Now he's just a jerk.
Because I did, it's funny that you say that, because I saw an interview or video or whatever the fuck it was, and he was kind of, it's like when we first started out, we had to play everything live, but then, right, technology and stuff. So, and that's why Eddie's solos are here and here and here and here and here and here, because, you put it all together. And I'm like, That's kind of like
Not
taking
true.
a piss on the Bible a little bit, you know.
Right. He
Um,
has a lot of issues with Eddie and the whole guys. I mean, it's his
well,
show. It's
well, I will say this though. I agree. I agree.
nothing gets him in the prime. His singing in the prime, because he could sing two voices at once. He could do the split
Yeah,
voice,
two notes. Yeah,
and a lot of people don't notice that by listening to him. That's only million people with music know that. But so that was
yeah.
genius.
And you gotta listen to the what do you call it, the isolated vocals.
I have
to go, holy fuck. But
Yeah.
here is the thing, who else except for David Lee Roth really, I mean, you know, Sammy stood there and everything for sure, and Sammy's great, don't get me wrong, but really, who except David Lee Roth could be the front man of a band with Eddie Van Halen?
Well, to start off, that would have done okay. Jim Dandy, because you know that's really where Daily Roth got his stuff from.
I agree, but Jim Dandy is
not vocally.
rude.
I know, but I get he is. But visually,
well, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. Just like Axl Rose's Richard Black, you know what I mean? But
I never thought about that one.
Oh, dude,
I can do some, I never thought before. I'll do some side by sides. I'll go back on that now.
No, well, I mean, it's a notorious fact that, like, I mean, there's pictures of Axl in the whatever shitty place they were all living in behind the whiskey. Well, I mean, Richard was selling out the whiskey and Gazzari's and the Roxy, if it was around, literally 5 nights a week, literally 5 nights in a row, right? Shark Island, the band I play in and produce now. And
that was really good how you got that in there too in the conversation. That was awesome.
That's well, I watch a lot of David Lee Roth when
self-promotion. That's actually why you're here. We actually are promoting it. This is all about you, by the way. You're just a good storyteller, but this is all about promoting you. So please. Yes.
I'd like to be a major now. But David Lee Roth knows 7 languages. He's a 7th degree black belt. He goes mountain climbing by himself. He goes on safari, or did when we were kids, went on the safaris and, you know, all of these things, 7th degree black belt, you know, there. After Dave, okay, he was blonde because of Robert Plant and Jim Dandy. Yes. Okay. And he dressed like Jim Dandy. Yes.
And the moves were like Jim Dandy, you know, a lot of them were too.
But the thing is, he's David Lee Roth that we know is a fictional character that Dave Roth created to be able to go out there and face the audience. You know what I mean?
And I can't take away what he did either. It's like Dave should be trying to take away what Van Halen did with the guitar, the drums, the name of the band. You know what I mean? Dave put it all together and had the voice for it. Even though everyone says he was a crappy singer, he was great, especially for that music. That was.
But he was, I mean, because he had the bravado and he had the attitude, and I was not a David Lee Roth fan until I kind of saw beyond the exterior, right? And I actually got him a record deal in England when he was kind of at a low point around 2005 when he did that Diamond Dave album. For some reason, I was doing Anti-Product, and I mean, I just worked so hard on that thing every day. It was 16 hours a day. The band.
That Diamond Dave was a weird thing. I think he was struggling with his hair too. He tried to pretend it was long, but it really wasn't. Like it was going, and he should focus on his music instead of his hair.
Well, but the thing is, yes, sure, but yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying. But he was like that transition from like, okay, first of all, I'm David Lee Roth. Everybody that's blonde and a singer after David Lee Roth only wished they were as good as David Lee Roth. Now, Janie Lane was a better singer. Janie Lane was a much better writer, but he didn't have the charisma. He had charisma for sure, I actually recently became a Warrant fan. Such an underrated songwriter. Being his, like, I learned, I saw Red and Cherry Pie and all the everything that went on in those songs. And he's a huge Cheap Trick fan, because I see, you know, again, going back to my fucking, like, I want to be the biggest Cheap Trick fan on earth if I'm not already. So knowing intimately how Rick Nielsen made his songs and employing those same tools in Life, Sex, and Death, and, you know, everything subsequent as far as key changes and modulations and arrangements and how to do things and whatever. I mean, it's all like, my music is Cheap Trick after the Ramones, basically, you know, with heavy metal, because I'm a metal kid from Chicago. You know, my first real gig was replacing Michelangelo Badio. Yeah, I know, dude. I still get PTSD. What was it? They had a solo called High Life. I'm sure I can't do it now, but
you don't have guitars. You only have one guitar in front of you.
I mean, it was just like, and then he does it across. Like, he would go all across the entire octave range, dude. And, you know, and I was in a Cheap Trick and the Ramones, and then suddenly I'm doing all of these, like, what? Oh, hang on. But part of the reason I still have any chops is because I was like 20 years old. I came from that background, and somehow I got the gig replacing him. What does that have to do with anything? Oh, Cheap Trick.
You talk about Cheap Trick and David Lee Roth.
Anyway, so but all of the blonde singers, Vince Neil, all of them, they were just, damn it, we're not as smart as David Lee Roth, because David Lee Roth is a really, really smart man. He knows crowd psychology. That's why he was such a brilliant frontman, because he just knew what everybody. There was videos of him, Dave, where they did a song or two, and he hadn't said shit yet to the audience. Hadn't said a word, you know. So maybe it was what was the one? I remember. Take your whiskey, whatever. One of that. I'm playing it poorly. Romeo's Delight, actually, that was the name of it. Maybe that was the opening song. Anyway, they did two songs, and he kind of just stops. I've yet to see anybody top this. Okay, and that was in the 80s, and he just stands there, and the audience starts getting louder, and he just kind of, and he, you know, like a dog, like he just like cocks his head for a second. The audience gets twice as loud. He has done this all through body language, and he knows exactly what he's doing, because he does it every single fucking night, and that's how clever he is. Now the audience is getting louder and louder, and now he's kind of reacting to the volume that's coming. He still hasn't said shit, right? And at one point, and everybody who knows Van Halen can picture this, at one point he turns around to Alex, right? So Alex is behind me, I'm Dave, right? So he turns around and he goes, looking at Alex, he goes, he's pointing at the audience with this hand, right? And then with this hand, he looks at Alex and he does the thing. He hasn't said a word. He got 20,000 people to roar like they were in a fucking Roman Colosseum watching lions eat babies. Weird analogy. But and
the song title.
And he hasn't said a word, and he's got the whole fucking place eating out of his hand through body language. And the first thing he says when he's done with that, the first thing he said to the audience, not that he's got them whipped into a frenzy without having said one motherfucking word, all through body language, he goes, "Look at all the people here tonight." And I thought it was loud for 3 minutes of no talking. That place, I swear to God, I could see that like plaster was coming off the ceiling of the venue. You know what I mean? Absolute perfection. Brilliant showman. So who's going to stand on stage next to one of the 5 greatest guitar players that ever reinvented how the instrument was played in the name of Eddie Van Halen and not be inconsequential? Gary Sharon, great performer, great singer. And they sounded really, really good.
And he performed with one of the other guys in the top 5 guitar players, with Nuno, every night to begin with.
Well, I know that Nuno's a brilliant guitar player, but I don't think he's as influential as Eddie was. He's a
not I'm just saying great guitar player. So he's
unbelievable guitar player, really, and so percussive. And I mean, there's and melodic and cool note choices.
He's a smart guitar player.
And absolutely worthy of every ounce of praise and success that we can give him. But he didn't do what Eddie did.
No one did.
You know what I mean? Nobody fucking did, really. So I think that the two of them drove each other. Mm-hmm. So it disallowed Eddie to become complacent, right? And he did. He got, I'm not fucking Eddie. I like Eddie Van Halen.
No, but if you've read any books, have you read the Ted Templeman book? And read it. Read that. Why? And then because it talks about Ted Templeman's relationship with Eddie. It does stuff with the Doobie Brothers, but with Eddie, and it gets behind the scenes that. And then you read the manager did one too called "Running with the Devil."
Yeah.
Book. Oh, that was another one. And you really feel like how like they did a prank on David Lee Roth. They took his food and he got all mad. He was hurt like a child. And sometimes Eddie would get depressed and want to go home. He'd sit and cry. Like all these weird things. Like the band was it feels like everyone was very childlike, and they worked off each other's insecurities. It wasn't the same. I mean, they did adult rock and roll things, but if you read that, and I haven't read Van Halen Rising yet, but if you read that in Sammy's book, you get a really good idea of the dynamics of, because all the stories kind of fit together, even though they weren't all together. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They all corroborate each other. Yeah.
I recommend that. It's really interesting because there was this very immature feeling. I got childlike,
Well,
like they had to prove each other.
I mean, Eddie was 23 when he became world famous immediately. David Lee Roth also was adopted. He doesn't know who his parents are. So that's going to give you emotional baggage. That's going to make you create a persona that will be loved when your parents didn't necessarily, or we don't know why they gave him up for adoption, but he had that force of nature thing about him where I will be fucking heard. I will be heard. And I think a lot of that stems from having actually been adopted,
Could be.
And Sammy held it together for sure, but it was kind of like, Dave called the Sammy version, it's yuppie barbecue music. It's yuppie barbecue music. I mean, that intense fire that we felt up to 1984. I think when Dave was out of the band, Eddie's foil, the one who spurred him on, like, well, I'm going to fucking upstage you. Oh yeah. Well, I'm going to upstage you. You know what I mean? And like, that was like me and Stanley. Well, that was actually all of us in Life, Sex and Death. We were all having a battle for attention, and nobody ever wanted to like give up or lose, whatever. But it made for a better spectacle, because it's like, I'm sure when Madonna walks into rehearsal or whatever, like the band and the dancers aren't like, oh, thank God Madge is here to tell us what we're doing wrong. You know what I mean? Right. So you need to push each other to truly give the audience more than what they expected, which is what you always would get with Van Halen and Kiss and whatever. Gene and Paul, man, they were fucking in a fight for their lives on stage against each other. Right. Gene, well, I'm gonna fire breathe, motherfucker. Okay, well, I'm gonna sail across the audience, then, you bastard. Okay, well, I'm gonna go into the lighting rig, then, you motherfucker. Okay, well, then I'm gonna, on and on and on. I'm gonna. My bass solo is going to be fire breathing, So, and the same thing with the Who, man. Think about it. Fucking Keith Moon and Pete Townsend and, you know, Roger Daltrey trying to find his way in between those two fucking maniacs. You know what I mean?
Oh, and they were still taking a piss at each other too. I don't know. Somebody was singing for them, and he heard they're seeing the show. It was another well-known musician. He went and was talking to Pete, and he says, "Watch this so-and-so thing during the show. I'm gonna play this other thing." And so Roger goes to announce the song, and then Keith goes into another. Not Keith, Pete goes into another song, different, just to irritate him. He called earlier on just to do it. They still, and this was only a couple of years ago, still busting each other up like that. Still, nothing's changed.
Well, and but I think, I mean, first of all, my favorite.
First of all, it's funny as hell.
it's well, and that right, it is, and I'm a strong believer in it's good to have. I think it's good to have tension in a band. I think it's good for the music. I think it's good for pushing yourself.
But it can only last so long. Look what happened to the Stones. At one point, it just fell apart, and then they learned how to rework together.
Yeah.
David Roth was the best until he was not the best anymore. Yeah. And by the time 84 went, because that bravado and that bragging, that ego, when you're so confident, it's a cartoon. It's very comical. And it was so good. The rest of the world didn't get to experience it because the handlers kind of keep it all in. You got to read those books. But once that happened, he got to his point where they couldn't, the band was just so miserable by the time they broke up.
All four?
Well, they couldn't, well, you know, Michael Anthony's always happy. He's like the nicest guy in the world.
Okay.
But like, yeah, the guy, there's such misery between Dave and Eddie and Alex, because Alex, you know what I mean? Even though the brothers would fight, they still loved each other 5 minutes later. Dave, it was so acrimonious for so long for those guys. Like, I was happy after reading the book. I was so happy that they got he had a partner to write songs that could sing and play with him. Like, it felt good. Like that's what he needed. That was the next part, what Eddie needed. You know what I'm saying? And I like Dave, I like Sammy. I like Dave in his prime, but I also like Sammy. Dave didn't age as well. Like, Sammy is still aging better vocally and musically.
Oh, way so in every capacity.
You know what I'm saying? Like, Sammy's got voices like a leather tennis ball. That's just not going away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I think he's losing a step or two now, you know.
What's he, like, 75? Jesus.
Yeah, and right, exactly. I mean,
who sings better than him now as a kid? Very few people.
Well, I mean, I'm sure
there are some people. Actually, we're talking about a certain person. We're going to talk about Scotty and Skid Row, the new singer for Skid Row.
He's great.
That's what they needed. That's what they needed. They don't need that. Dude, and that shuts up everybody. They don't need Sebastian now. And I'm not going to go there and knock on him. The point is, if you have two people that don't like doing what they're doing, to just do it for money isn't worth it. To just do it for the fans, it's fake.
Well, I'd seen I'm in Phoenix now, right? That's where Mom is.
Yeah.
And Bear. I'd seen that tour, which was Winger, Warrant, and Skid Row headlining with the other guy that they had, black-haired dude with the long hair. Okay. I think he came from like a metal background. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But I mean, he definitely had a little bit of like, go crazy for me just because I ask you to, right? And I mean, I know somebody in all of those bands, so I'm not saying anything disrespectful. I don't intend to.
I'll be the judge of that.
Everybody, yeah, you let me know. We just excise that. But you know, everybody sounded great. Scotty Hill's one of my favorite fucking rock stars. I love his playing, and he's an awesome dude. And Winger sounded unbelievable, unsurprisingly. Reb Beach, what a fucking guitar player.
Yeah, he's another monster.
Just beyond, yeah. You know, it's you just kind of go, how do you even think of that? What is that even? Like, I watch Phil, same thing. I'm like, how would you even think of that, let alone play it, you know?
And we're talking about Phil X's guitar playing. We're not talking about Phil Lewis's mustache, because how he got that, you know.
Well, I mean, it's a similar question, but it's
What do you think of that?
Why? I mean, we should do. What are you achieving? But I mean, he's a fucking legend. So fuck me. Who cares what I say? But but they did. You know, and you know, with that tour, it's going to be generally speaking older people that, you know, grew up in the 80s, and you know. Mm-hmm. and they got a couple of kids now and whatever the fuck. So they usually go to bed around 10:30 so they can go to work the next day and whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And then so Skid Row did a ballad or a slower tune right around like 10:30, something like that. And they lost the whole fucking audience. Like the whole audience was like, oh, thank God I can sit down now. You know what I mean? And the singer's reaction, the previous guy, not the new guy.
Yeah.
The singer's reaction was to hold the audience accountable. And I was like, well, it's actually your job.
You work for the audience.
Be so great that we can't help but respond a la David Lee Roth when he didn't say shit for 3 minutes and got a louder reaction than anybody ever has after the last encore. You know what I mean? And he was, you know, and he got kind of like, you know, well, fuck you. You know what I mean? It was sort of like he was antagonizing, and it's like, bro, if you don't know yet that that's how you completely lose you, now we're resenting you. We have paid money and now you're calling me a motherfucker. Well, you know what, son of a bitch, you need me more than I need you. Right. And that turned out to be true, because the next thing I know, that dude was out. And I was like, thank God, that guy was such a fucking entitled, and he sang good.
But he didn't sound like he didn't fit with the music, I don't think.
Well, his attitude didn't fit with the camaraderie, and I kept seeing, as I saw him fail in his job, I thought, Sebastian never would have let this happen.
No.
Like Sebastian would have had the knowledge and the charisma and the gumption to pull that audience back in. What are you fucking crazy? It's Friday night, motherfuckers. Let me hear you right now. And everybody went, we're back. Instead of, oh, why aren't you doing things for me?
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up. You're a dancing clown like the rest of us. Do your job. And the next thing I knew, that dude was in.
Kid. Now I can say they had a couple singers, and like Johnny came in. I listened to the first album they did without him, and the songwriting was still Skid Row. And I like some of the songs, Ghost or whatever. But then after that, I just didn't feel like it was the same. It felt like just wasn't the right singer. I liked the band. I never gave up on him. You know, I go check out each of the releases and stuff. I was like, no, it's not happening. But I understood why they held out from Sebastian, because why would you want to? If you don't want to be with somebody, you don't want to be with somebody.
You don't want to be with them.
Right. And so I get that. And now I can say this. I was talking to somebody at night. Now, that kid did in Europe or wherever he was from, he did it's like a Star Search or most whatever, and he did 18 in Life.
Yeah.
And I know some people that have had the band had, some of the guys in bands knew, I know through them. I said, hey, this is a singer for you guys. And I think Rachel had his eyes on this guy for a while. I don't think this just happened.
Oh.
I think people, I think not because the guy was going because of it, but I'm saying, I think the universe, people have mentioned other people to different members of the band, like, hey, and maybe Rachel has, because those guys are smart guys, that band, you know, you don't travel for this long. I mean, they're great songwriters. So, you know, and it feels so good. It was like I felt so happy for them, because the energy in the band, watching them play some of the live clips, exploding with happiness. I felt like it was like a Hallmark moment. I was so happy for them, because that's what they needed. They're back.
I totally agree. And they're relevant again, because the band that I saw with the other singer seemed like, remember us? But now, because the guy's enthusiastic and he's stoked as fuck, and he's in his favorite band, and he sings his dick off, and like he's learning the ropes like a fish to water.
It doesn't hurt having a young guy in the band either, because it also helps, you know, because it'll make your audience, you know, if you have all different age groups, it's even better.
Well, and also going back to that competition thing, like if you have not all older dudes stand on their X's and don't move. Iggy Pop, Mick Jagger, Alice Cooper, et cetera, Steven Tyler, the list is endless. But by getting fresh blood in there, there's nobody kind of like sitting back into complacency. And when they see how, and this is all the psychology of being in a band.
No, I agree. I thought they were feeding off his energy. Like it was, exactly. And then he was feeding off of them and their excitement. He's like, my favorite players are excited because of me. Now I'm more excited. And it just felt like, you know.
Yeah. That's I totally agree.
It's pure love. It's pure love and pure honesty.
And it's completely palpable when you watch the videos. Like I saw when they were opening for the Scorpions. That was my first introduction to the new singer with them in that context. And I'm like, hey, I really enjoy this.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't help it. Meaning, I didn't think about it. I just liked it.
Like when you first heard them, you're like, who are these guys? Like when Skid Row first came out, you're like, what is going on here? Right after, when they were still peaking with Slaves to the Grind, you're like, who writes these songs?
Yeah, I know.
These guitar tones. Who's doing this?
Great album, man.
Oh, that album is just ridiculous.
Solid as fuck. And I mean, I did like, what was the one after that with Enemy on it?
And Break Me Down is on it too.
It was some kind of I don't remember, but it was the third album, and it came out right when all of the fucking grunge and whatever. And I do like that they didn't do what Kiss did, and they didn't go ahead and make an Alice in Chains record. Now I like Carnival of Souls. Don't get me wrong. I like Carnival of Souls.
I don't think you could listen to that until a few years ago. I didn't even bother at that point. I was just so done.
But you know what? Don't listen to it for what you love about Kiss. Just listen to it for, because I personally think that that's Bruce Kulick's album, right? And I'm a fan of his. A vastly underrated player, but he's like a team player. So he's not sitting there going, he's like, yeah, I'll play the songs really good and make it look easy, and there's some great riffs on that record. And because I didn't give it the time of day, I think I heard one song and I was like, okay, Alice in Chains. I guess they hopped on that bandwagon, off the Bon Jovi bandwagon onto the Alice in Chains bandwagon. But if you divorce what your expectations from a Kiss album are, the way we all had to, which I can't, every 15, 10 years, whatever the fuck, I'm like, all right, I'm going to listen to Unmasked again. I'm going to do it. And this time it's going to get me and I'm going to understand it. And I'm going to be able to say to my friends that keep telling me what a great album it was and blah, 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 blah. I'm going to call them up. I'm going to go, dude, you were totally right about Unmasked. I completely discovered it. I missed the boat and fuck me. Thank you for turning me on to this masterpiece. It hasn't happened yet. I just hate them more for having released that and wasting my time through 4 fucking decades.
What about The Elder though?
Same thing.
There's one song in there that I do like.
I is a great tune. I'm not flipping you off. I'm trying to go, what is this here? What are these things? It's like a handlebar. My hair has a handlebar mustache.
A handlebar mustache.
A hero bar. I kind of like that. I look like Pippi Longstocking.
I was going to say, I think I'm going to do like a Wendy's commercial. I'm going to order a double bacon burger from you. And maybe it is that might be the song. There's one song I went back and listened to.
I like World Without Heroes.
Yeah.
I think that's a great tune. Again, like you don't expect that song from Kiss, but I think it's a great song, and I was able to hear it and go, hey, that's actually pretty fucking cool. I is a great song. And I guess I'd have to go back.
You have to listen to their songs, right? And pretend it's not them singing it, like this is a songwriter. And that goes back. Yeah. I say this a lot, and this is what you were saying before about like with Warrant. Like there's songs, I'm not a good guitar player by any means. Probably one of the worst you ever heard. But when I play it and I'm learning a song that I may have heard, it would say elevator music or something I don't like.
Yeah.
And then you learn how to play it and you're like the chord and the band. I've renewed, like I'll just say it, but the guitar players in the Eagles, great guitar players, but to me, the Eagles really just got so burned out, too much for me. But the guitar playing was really good.
Yeah, all the way.
But you know what I'm saying? And then I started playing the music. I'm like, oh, I'll just try learning it. I'm like, oh, I get it. These the guitar work is fantastic.
Really,
and it's not,
there is so much, in songs about his dick and Bobby Brown's vagina. There's so much musical depth and integrity in there that the topics belie the amount of brilliance that we have in those songs and the arrangements. And I had to learn like 30 of their tunes for a thing. And I just kept going, including the solos. And some of those solos are like are you fucking kidding me? Like, I mean, that solo in Down Boys is brilliant.
Now that I don't know, but remember at that point though, there was a whole controversy about that. Remember?
Well, I
They
think
brought in guitarists for that, and they wanted to. And then I know Joey wanted to bring up his game, so he learned to get it, to play, to do the solos himself at one point. I think
well,
because
they
they're
didn't
a
have
young band.
Joey's, oh yeah, by like 1990, there's, if anybody doubts that Warrant is a totally legit, and also, I mean, it now, like Robert Mason's actually one of my dearest lifelong friends. So
He was on the show once, and the show never. I apologize to Robert.
yeah, but no,
we had an audio problem. We had an audio problem for that show, and I couldn't play. It was so loud, I couldn't get rid of it. I was like, his watch, it was picking up something. It was such a loud click, I couldn't clean it up.
well, because I think I put him in touch with you.
You did.
Yeah. So indirectly, I'm to blame for that.
Well, I apologize. There's somebody else that you set me up to, and that didn't happen. We'll talk about that off the air, though. I don't want to slag anybody.
Yeah,
somebody didn't want to go on video though, but they ended up video anyhow with somebody else.
Well, yeah.
It's all good.
We're done.
It's all good. It's all good. I just laughed.
But so there is really, really great information in those Warrant songs.
Yeah.
And if anyone ever questions the legitimacy, because I heard those rumors as well, right? I heard all of that stuff.
I tried to actually talk about it. I think Joey's actually done an interview. He's talked about the whole situation.
Yeah, and they're not shying away from it, and they're decent men of integrity for sure.
I've seen them play before when it was still with Jeannie. They're good playing. They could still play their stuff. I'm saying I think they're a young band, and the producer was way stronger.
Yeah,
and you leave and you come back and there's a guitar track on there, or they see somebody else. You're just brand new. It's your first day of school. What are you going to do? It's a machine.
That's exactly. And
they just went and did their homework and woodshedded and became their own machine again.
Yes, exactly. And there's a video from Japan, 1991 or 1992, where there were headliners. It is unfucking believable. It's as good as anything. It's certainly as good as anything from that era, and Janie Lane was great, and he controlled the crowd, and everybody played amazingly. The tones, harmonies, everything was fine. Which is the other thing, and I've played in bands with tracks. Let me put it that way. I've played in bands with tracks. And I hated it because one, everybody was a good singer, so we could have done it for real.
Just, I was going to make a joke. I was going to say, "Oh, I didn't know you played with Kiss," but I didn't say, I didn't make that joke.
But I actually wrote with Gene Simmons though, which was fucking amazing. But for the 12-year-old rock nerd that I've never stopped being.
He's another one. He has established himself, and he's actually. I also heard he's a good for the charity and the soldiers. So there's some really good quiet parts about him that
absolutely. That is what I saw one. Absolutely, he had to be. First of all, he's Jewish. His mom was in a concentration camp. He had to be ruthlessly intractable. He was taking care of his ma. He had to get as big as fuck. He came from nothing, and he was gonna do it. So, okay, some of his behavior probably was not what would be acceptable now. Fair enough. We can agree on.
But if we look at aging rockers, though, let's say we're watching him age and his behavior, David Lee Roth and Ted Nugent. I'm still happy with Gene's aging than David Lee Roth or Ted Nugent.
And I'll tell you what, like, like I was saying, like me and Jeremy are pretty tight, and he's played with both Gene and Ace. He's still playing with Ace now, and I don't think Ace has ever sounded better, like since he's been solo, since he's had those guys in his band.
Really
Matt Starr,
inspiring him.
Great drummer. The vocals sound unbelievable. Philip is a great singer. Jeremy's a great singer. Ryan's a great singer.
I saw him do a jam online too. Him and I think Steve Brown was there. I don't know if the event was. They were playing some songs. It was like
I think that was Creature Fest.
Okay, that's that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I'm a Kiss fan, so I asked him for stories and whatever, obviously. And in line with what you're saying about Gene, I very much think that he still is giving everything he can at his age now.
Oh God, yeah.
And he's not taking it for granted. That same drive, I think, is still present in
those outfits, how heavy they are. The
dude,
boots,
that's gotta be.
I couldn't have done that in my prime. I could not be able to walk in my prime in those, and then play
That's
bass
what I'm
with fire
saying.
and sing and not be out of breath. He's what, 70s, right? 70s now.
And that's what I'm saying. I think he's still giving it his all, and I
mean, that is huge. In the 70s, I had to help my grandfather to the bathroom. This guy's wearing that outfit. You know what I'm saying? It's insane. And there are good things he's done. And as much as you hear the other bad stories, I always like to say, but what he's done for soldiers and donations, nobody talks about. And I'm not like a huge
praise of Gene Simmons,
right? I'm not one to sing about the praise. My point is, I hate when somebody just gets the bad rap all the time and just piles on in this world of media, and there's other stuff. So it's really just, I'm saying generally, that's something you got to notice about him. You got to right?
Well, with Marky.
I'm sorry, yeah.
And I met him.
Right, there's so there's so many Ramones projects out there.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna start my own. There's Zazie Ramone, but I like that actually.
That's pretty funny.
Well, I mean, I'll have by the end of July, I will have toured literally with everybody who's alive who'd ever been a Ramone.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty good with that. I like that a lot, But I well, I mean, I'm not going to say that I love Richie, because we had a very antagonistic relationship for reasons that are not appropriate to go into. So I was like, you know what? I'm sick of this fucking bullshit from my perspective. I'm sure he was sick of my fucking bullshit too. So it wasn't a one-way street. I still respect him as
love him for the person who he is, what he stands for, the music part.
He's well, it's his personality that I don't like. But his playing, he's a great drummer. He's a fucking great drummer, man. And there were times that I'd be playing with him and I'd be like, man, this dude is he's unbelievably good. Coming from like a Ginger Baker school. And Marky's a great drummer too. But all we know about Marky's playing is what he did in the Ramones, but he's got the whole fucking Gene Krupa, Keith Moon thing in him, but that's not how the Ramones songs go,
Yeah.
So anyway, my friend, before he was my friend, he was sending me pictures of how the soldiers in the Middle East, the men and women who were risking our lives,
right,
literally, so I can sit in a hot tub in LA with strippers. You know what I mean? Back when that was a thing.
Actually, I'm gonna put the background. If only I would get copyrighted, to be like, God bless America while you're saying that.
The what?
Like God bless America in the background while you're saying that. Get copyright strike for that one. It'd be worth it. Flags in the background.
But the picture that he sent me of how the soldiers who were ostensibly fighting for our freedom, but I don't think that's what was going on, frankly. But
Kuwait they weren't gonna attack us.
Yeah, where weapons and masks? Yeah, where? Well, they're holding them back for a long time now. But anyway, so. And what American soldiers that were stationed in the Middle East would spend Thanksgiving literally around an oil drum with fire coming out of it, eating turkey out of a ration can. And I'm like, that's disgusting. That's the best we can do. And here's the thing. Not directly related to anything I was just talking about, of course, but
nothing has been since we started.
Don't have me on your fucking show if that's what you want.
I knew what I was signing up for.
But all the points are sort of relevant, I think. I mean, certainly connected.
This is like rock and roll Willy Wonka. I'm on the glass elevator. I'm riding this thing out with you.
I'm taking that as a compliment.
Absolutely.
after a lifetime of doing this, and when I started Life, Sex, and Death, I'm one of the founding guys in Enough's Enough. I've played with all the Ramones who are still alive. Anti-Product was the first band who ever fan funded. That's not about me. That's about the fans. We did it in 2000. We were fan funded, but there were no platforms. There was nothing. There was just me not having a record deal and needing money to get shit done. So I would come up with ancillary product that wasn't available through the label or anything. I would sell it directly to the fans. And then, friends of mine that were in the circle in England, Ginger in particular, took that sort of paradigm. And
Ginger Wildheart?
Yeah.
Or Ginger Spice. I mean, really could be
no, Ginger. Well, the first song that me and him
because that would be pretty cool too.
the first song that me and him wrote together was actually called "Message to Jerry" from the Spice Girls.
Right, Jerry Howell.
Yeah, Ginger Spice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, but he was crushing on her so hard at that point that, and he's actually the reason that I ended up moving to England even for a decade. So we wrote I did the bridge, and for sure I did the bridge. I don't remember off the top of my head what else, maybe some of the words, but he was crushing on her so hard that he wanted to do a song to try to get her attention. Right. And which didn't happen. It didn't happen. He didn't get with her.
He should just waited a few years and then, he should just waited a few years for the popularity to die down. And
well, it was already, the Spice Girls had already broken up. This would have been like 2000. Actually, that's not that. I'll stay on point though. Sorry about that. But for all of the stuff, the great experiences, and maybe adding a few letters to the language of rock and roll through what I do. And I don't know if this is a message for anybody out there, whatever, but in all of that time, okay, I mean, like one of the songs from the Life, Sex, and Death album, all of which I have for sale. And actually they reissued that album on double red vinyl for the first time ever, the complete album. And they sold out of the whole first run, and they're having to do another run.
That's success right there.
Well, the downside to that, though, is that when we left the label, we signed all rights away.
Right. Well, we're not talking financial success. We're just talking about success in the music industry.
Yeah,
it's still selling out, and no one's really promoting it. You're not really a band together for how many years, right? Not really a band.
30 years.
And it's still selling out of the product.
Yeah.
That's your legacy. Well, that's a legacy.
It was it wasn't at the time. And like when you're in the painting, you can't really see the picture, can you? So I only Life, Sex, and Death only started becoming popular while I was in England. And by the time I came back, I was like, oh my God, I love Life, Sex, and Death. And I'm like,
I hear a lot of your peers saying it too. I can't think off the top of my head now. I would have to, because I put this many shows now, but it's come up before. It's one of the, because I love the album. I love a lot of your work. So it's come up in conversation, in relevance. Like we've had talk about certain artists and music, and I may have had an example,
The only goal, I mean, I think I'm speaking for everybody that made the record, but I can for sure speaking for myself. The only goal that was evidenced was, let's make something that doesn't sound dated 2 years from now. We wanted to make a record that would stand the test of time, that was genreless, that was not subject to the limitations of the novel technology of the time. So while everybody else was out there putting reverb on the kick drum, we did, and which then as soon as like 92, 93 rolled around, all of those records sounded like old. You know what I mean?
But these differences, you didn't make the big change because you didn't copy everybody.
We didn't copy anybody.
But that's what they wanted. That's how it was making the money. You do what you wanted to do. You got cult status, and you survived it, a reputation. You didn't get the quick cash.
I'm so stoked that rather than being a multimillionaire, I have cred and 20 people really respect me.
That's more than that's 10 more than my audience.
That's okay. So
you see how I keep up number 2?
I should start a podcast, is what I'm hearing.
Probably destroy my numbers. You would get
It's
13 people. I would just close my shop.
yeah,
Close the door
right.
down.
Dude, I am 30% more big than you are. But to have then like the amount of it's funny because okay, so I play with stars once everybody gets healthy again. They're a little bit older, so they've got health issues. But that is one of the most influential bands of all time that never made it, right? But
That live album that they do is just like a greatest hits of every pop song ever. I can't do the live album.
of like it's like, oh, this is a Bon Jovi song, this is a Motley Crue song.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, I
that's
can't.
actually
It's like it's a
Star
live.
song.
It's like a stars. It's like almost like they're in a club or something too. But every song sounds so good, and it's so it's escaping me. I have so much music in my head now. Stuff just gets shuffled up now.
It's if you haven't checked out the first two Stars albums, you don't know rock and roll. That's the bottom
No, I've
line.
listened to them. I just can't refer them at this point. At this point, between listening to music for the show and getting stuff sent to me of new artists, I can't handle it too much.
Well, it's Stars. I think in a nutshell, the first album literally has the most unbridled vocal performances I have ever heard in my life. I think they are some of the greatest performances of rock and roll of all time. But they didn't happen. But they were incredibly influential. Shark Island didn't happen. But they created anything that came after Guns N' Roses. You have Richard Black to thank. You know what I mean? They were doing Richard. That's not Axl. That's Richard. That's all. He was the man, in the same way that Green Day made it and the Ramones are a cult band. The Ramones thought of it, but Green Day was able to walk through the hole they'd kicked in the wall and see it as a doorway. And then, so after all of that time and all of the effort and all of the everything that goes into doing what it is that we do, let alone over the course of 85, however long ago that's when I started gigging, replacing Badio at my first show. You know what I mean? It's like, okay. And me and him are totally tight. We're solid as fuck too. And like, I was able to mentally get to a place where I was no longer forcing myself to live in a shadow. You know what I mean? And I'm like, fuck it. I'm just going to be me and fuck all that other shit. But to only now start having hits, it's ridiculous. Like legit hits now. You know what I mean? That I co-wrote, that I produced.
You're saying like a couple of them.
3. There's one now. It's number.
So name them. This is how we're going to. People need to know what you're up to, so we can buy your merch.
Just get a hold of me direct. All of my merch, just come to me through any of the socials.
All right. And as usual, they know the drill. The links will be underneath the show on the podcast and on the YouTubes. You kids like. So you can click on it.
Facebook, Instagram, whatever.
I'll put all those links there for you.
I want to be personally responsible to the people.
What do you have? You get the shirts. I know you have.
I got shirts. I got videos. I got posters. I got unreleased demos. I got 40 unreleased songs. I got unreleased masters. I got what do I got? I got anti-product stuff, which is a crime if you don't know who that is, because it's the best thing I've ever done. I think I've done 3 really important things in my life: life, sex, and death. Anti-product, I think, was very influential.
Laughing monkey music.
4 things.
Like stupid podcasts. That goes on my other list. The 3 stupid things I done in my life.
And in the pantheon of things that I've done, and it's apparent what I'm leaving out, but in the pantheon of things of what I've done, I believe that the Shark Island album that I produced is one of the greatest things I've ever done. And I worked my dick off on it. I know every sound on that album all the way through. I know.
Now, have you done a lot of production before? Or
yeah.
Like full albums and stuff in the past?
The what?
Like you've done other full whole albums, or he did like bits and pieces?
I've done no. I've done full albums and stuff. This has been the most successful because a lot of the other stuff was like indie or South American. I've done production there. I've done production for European bands and stuff.
It's all experience, though. It's all where you are. Like
Yeah, well, you
to do
learn
what you do,
something
you have
all
to
the
learn
time.
everything, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you stop learning, you start dying. So I always read and learn and try, and then always try to be better than I was the day before. But so to finally have songs that are being accepted, like Alex Kane and the Mainstream have never been in a sentence together. You know what I mean? So now that it is, Dad gets it, but he's 90. Dad gets it. He's still all there. And he still reads and learns and stuff. But you know, it doesn't resonate with Mom so much. So talking to her about my career is a waste of time pretty much, because as you get Alzheimer's, you begin to regress. So I am the parent, you know what I mean? So I am caring for her now. And if I were living the life that I've lived before, I would absolutely end up burning in hell. So, and I mean, we sold out the whiskey Shark Island. We played there. We sold it out, which that surprised me. Eddie Trunk became a fan and started saying a bunch of cool shit about the band. And that was a surprising result.
And I will be looking forward to him talking about why Shark Island is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame starting next year.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen. But
you know the joke, because he's talking about certain bands not being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah, well,
that's the one joke he does that. That's his thing.
Well, he's a huge Stars fan as well.
Oh yeah,
he's a huge Stars fan, and he knows his shit. So
he's a big lover of music. So it's just funny when he always gets
he's a fan.
If you watched, was it like the metal show or whatever, he always goes on a tangent about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's just the thing that gets him worked up.
Oh, really? Does it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and there's
all the good bands that haven't gotten in, and the other ones have gotten in, but he really gets personal about it. Like, it's really kind of funny. It's like comical.
Well, yeah, but it's commerce. It's not like,
I know it's not real. But
I mean, okay, Guns N' Roses is a great band, but they made 2 albums, 2 records. They get in before Cheap Trick. Cheap Trick influenced an entire generation, all of whom got in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame before Cheap Trick. Stop it, And the other thing, they charge the families of the bands $10,000 a head if they want to go. Yeah,
10,000.
Rick Nielsen's from Rick Nielsen. I don't know if it's personal or if it's family or whatever, but you know what? If guys
so even if it was a group, you get your table, okay, and it's 10,000 for the table. Even if it was that, right?
It's still fuck you.
That's still insane. You should have to pay for that event.
Well, because without the people that they're charging to have their families witness being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, there'd be no Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Again, it's like, it eludes me now. The Megan chick's boyfriend.
Oh,
Tommy Lee guy.
Oh,
what was his name?
No, I don't need to see any more of him. I don't know what he's doing.
What's
I know it's like Tommy Gun or something. He has this crazy name.
No,
they're like drinking just his blood right now.
Yeah, Machine Gun Kelly. Yeah,
Machine Gun Kelly.
He should be that guy.
Did we learn wrong from Angela Jolie and all them and Bobby Thornton? They're drinking each other's blood and stuff, and now they're doing it and stuff. People got to stop with that. That's a red flag. If you're drinking somebody's blood, red flag.
In my day, if somebody has to drink my blood, I viewed that as a red flag, not a bonding ritual.
Nowadays, it isn't.
Well, anyway, if you guys would hit me up for all your merch and just to talk or whatever, do check out Shark Island. One other thing to plug briefly.
This is great. Thanks.
And hey, thanks for having me back, man. That's super duper awesome. I really appreciate that.
I'll be back with me.